Joining us to discuss BTC price and other Bitcoin news is our Week in Review panel, CoinDesk Managing Editor of Market Spread Keoun, along with CoinDesk Research Analyst George Kaloudis. Happy Friday, George and Brad.
Happy Friday, Christine.
All right, I love it. Brad, let's start with you. All right, so Bitcoin has had another week of low volatility, as we saw from the charts there, but it was a big week for the Fed and the jobs report. So well, let's start off with the jobs report there and its impact on Bitcoin, which really wasn't much.
I'm just going to take a detour and say that I did cover the collapse of Enron in like 2001 or something, and
some parallels you're saying?
I attended a press conference where the whole point of the press conference was to show their CFO in person, Andy Fasto, to say that he had showed up. So anyway, that's what Do Kwon is suggesting. So let's see it. But anyway, yeah, the jobs report today, way more robust than anybody thought. People were looking for about 200,000 jobs gained, and they instead it came in at 261. And I think there was also a big upward revision to the prior month's number. And so, big picture, the job market is super strong. And I was just, we were talking to the team today, even here in my community in Austin area, there's a school bus driver shortage, and earlier this week, my wife said there was a sign posted in the grocery store that there's an egg shortage. So, look, this economy is super strong.
Well, it's just Halloween, Brad, so I understand if there's an egg shortage.
Maybe that's it. But anyway, yeah. So what does that imply? Fed's still got to keep going pretty full bore on its
Well, Powell was speaking on a Wednesday addressing the decision of the Fed to have a fourth straight rate hike, 75 basis points, saying, there may be slower rate hikes in the future, maybe at the next meeting or the meeting after that.
Yeah, the big speculation going in was that they would downshift the pace of increase. 75 is super fast. Usually they just go 25. They've gone 75 now for 4 meetings in a row. And, the speculation is they might downshift to December and then be done because, the perception is that the economy is slowing down. And Powell in his press conference came out and basically said, no, sorry, we still have a long way to go. And so the market really took that as a wake-up call. And, the market's really having a hard time processing these things. Like even today, stronger than expected report and the market's up. So, what we've seen is the market kind of making bad calls, honestly. I've seen this a few times where the market will go one direction right after the report, and then the next day reality sets in, and they'll kind of get the message. So, who knows what will happen this time, but it's
we saw Bitcoin briefly spike after the Fed's announcement, but it's, back into this low volatility range. So crypto compare data reveals annualized realized volatility for Bitcoin has averaged 63% in the past 12 months. That's lower than the average of 79% seen during the previous bear market. How are you guys going to be continuing at this range? Though, CoinDesk is recently reporting that 20,000 seems to be the new floor.
Yeah, we've had some really good reporting. One of our reporters, Jocelyn Young, had a good story out about this week. That we literally spent 18 days in a row below 20,000. Obviously coming down from the high last year of 69,000, and we just could not break that 20,000. Once we've broken that, we haven't gone back down below that. It's really kind of interesting. I think we're day 11 now above 20,000. So, and yeah, Bitcoin's not moving a lot, but it is kind of moving. It does kind of seem like it's pretty stable.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's take a look at the Bitcoin network. So, George, you've been keeping track of the hash rate this week, and the hash rate is an estimate that gauges how much computing power and thus miners are competing for Bitcoin blocks. What's standing out to you?
Yeah, I have two outstanding harmless internet/Twitter bets that I bully my way into. One, which I've already lost, is that I owe Tim Biko a tungsten cube for this. I bet that the Ethereum merge wouldn't happen in 2022, and it did. The other one is that Bitcoin's hash rate will get over 300 exahash this year, and we are well on our way. Hash rate was around 160 exahash this time last year, and now we're touching up against 270. A year ago, Bitcoin was $60,000. It's literally a different world that we lived in then and compared to what we live in now. But I do hope we touch up to 300 exahash because I need a win desperately, guys. It's been a tough year for Maxi out there, so I need something to point to. If I can say that the network has twice as much hashing happening on it, then that counts for something, right? I will slice the data every which way so I can tell you that the number is in fact going up.
You had a second point. Was that on the volatility?
Sorry?
You had a second point. Was that on Bitcoin volatility?
Oh, I could go and talk about volatility, and I don't have the numbers like you guys did, but I was listening to the Fed meeting, and I was doing something maybe a little bit strange, and I had my screen pulled up to a minute-by-minute chart of the S&P 500, and the S&P 500 was dancing around like crazy, right? The initial press release was at 2 p.m., and Jay Powell started talking at 2:30, and then people were asking questions after that. And this is how it behaved. It went up with the press release, and then it did down with the introductory statement, and then it kept going down with the press questions. And you don't have to imagine what my face looked like because it looked like this, right? We also saw Bitcoin do funky stuff during that time period, though, and it wasn't gyrating as much as the S&P was. And the one point I want to make is, what is this? Either Bitcoin's a real macro asset now and S&P needs to start acting like an adult, or value is meaningless. Let's buy bananas for $150,000. Anyway, that's my volatility point.
Fascinating. All right. And
what does your face look like when Bitcoin hits 302 exahashes? What does your face look like then? That's what I want.
I don't know. I'm gonna be really excited though. It'd be a big smile on my face.
So Marathon Digital CEO Fred Thiel was on All About Bitcoin with us yesterday after Marathon Digital mined a record 615 Bitcoin in October. And this is at a time when the mining industry is struggling. I mean, we are hearing from Compute North. They're going through bankruptcy proceedings. Iris Energy is saying they may not be able to meet their financial obligations and hiring lawyers. Fred Thiel said Argo could be facing some trouble, that they could be next to go down, and a couple others. What's your thoughts on the whole mining business right now, George?
Yeah, hash rate going up cuts against what we're hearing about all these public miners struggling financially, in part because of a year ago, hash rate being 160 and Bitcoin's price was $60,000. They started buying up a bunch of machines with debt because the Bitcoin price was high. And then they got delivered later, and suddenly these machines aren't producing as much profit as they had thought that they were going to. And there's just financial turmoil there, right? Hash price has been on an even sharper decline than Bitcoin's price because it is made up of hash rate and price. And hash price is, the amount of profitability you get from a single hash rate. If hash rate is going up and the price of Bitcoin is going down, it is getting less profitable to mine Bitcoin. So we're going to have bankruptcies. Among the bankruptcies, though, we're going to have miners who are soaking up the cheap ASICs. We've seen companies like CleanSpark come in and buy ASICs at ridiculously low prices. And you just mentioned Marathon. Marathon's mining a record number of Bitcoin last month. So there are companies who were built for long-term sustainability. They're not going to be feeling the pain. The people who loaded up on debt and just try to expand as quickly as possible, they're the ones who are going to be struggling.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at some crypto personalities. So it looks like the Bitcoin community is really turning its back against Sam Bankman-Fried. And Elon Musk, he was really, getting a lot of praise from the Bitcoin community after he bought all that Bitcoin on Tesla, SpaceX, and whatnot. But now he's all about Doge and turning his back on Bitcoin. Any thoughts on some of these topics, Brad?
Well, I mean, probably very different circumstances. Elon Musk. I mean, what's interesting is if you rewind, to when, it was kind of back in the days when MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor were first kind of coming on the scene of Bitcoin, and there was the narrative of lots of corporations were suddenly start going to put tons of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And Elon Musk was right in the middle of that, putting Tesla kind of in that conversation. And then, he kind of had second thoughts. There was all this stuff about the environment with, Bitcoin mining and whether, that was consistent with, an electric vehicle company. And, that narrative kind of faded. But, then Elon Musk went on Saturday Night Live and he was talking about Dogecoin, and he was calling himself, the script was that he was the Doge father. I think he was on with his mom talking about Dogecoin or something. I mean, but, fast forward now, obviously he is like right front and center in the news now. And we've had this huge bump in Dogecoin over the past couple of weeks. It's interesting. I feel like there's some part of the Bitcoiner who secretly loves Dogecoin because it's like embraces full sort of embraces full shitcoin and is like a reflection of kind of everything other than Bitcoin, right? And they think it's funny in that sense, whereas all the other stuff that is actually legit they think is totally not legit. So, but I mean in the maxi perspective, but I'm just saying it's interesting that Elon Musk has sort of still talking about Dogecoin, but he's not talking about Bitcoin. I don't know what that means or what that says. Sam Bankman-Fried is, enemy number one.
Well, George, you have some thoughts on SBF and why Bitcoiners are turning their back on him.
And I'll do a quick little thing for Elon there and Maxis and Dogecoin. On one hand, I love that Dogecoin is just kind of sitting over here being a ridiculous commentary on the fact that it has any value at all. That's great. There are companies out there that shouldn't have any value at all, and people don't say anything. Now we have this dog-themed currency that does literally nothing, and it has value. I love that. The point about Elon, though, is, last July he went on that ARK thing with Kathy and Jack and Steve Lee, and people were like, yay, he's a Bitcoiner. And then I think they quickly realized that the only thing that Elon Musk likes is memes and being liked. So he just leaned into the Dogecoin thing. But to another rich person who tends to dabble in crypto, SBF, he's getting a lot of heat, and it's coming from the Maxi camp mostly. And I think it was actually sparked by an Ian Allison CoinDesk piece that brought the components of Alameda Research, which is SBF's quant fund that is closely tied to his more well-known FTX exchange. And on their balance sheet, it's full of a handful of these liquid things like MAPS, I don't know what MAPS is, Oxy, FIDA, and a bunch of what they call FTT collateral, which is the token that helps enable crypto derivatives trading on FTX. And some speculation about the status of that FTT is it unlocked? Is it locked? Is it marked up to a market value above the trading value? Yada, yada, yada. Basically, people, and more specifically these Bitcoiners, are getting worked up about just the opacity of it all, right? Bitcoiners love transparency, and add this to the equation, I just don't think people are happy about it. So add to the fact that FTX is, it's a casino, right? It's a altcoin casino. So it makes sense that he's getting a lot of heat.